Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 8 o'clock. Right now, we would like to stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to have the roll call, please.
Lorraine Benefield.
Here.
Neil Brennan.
Here.
Ken Jones.
Here.
Lynn Clyde. Here. April McLaughlin.
Here.
Phyllis Peters.
Here.
Edith Romlo.
Here.
Tivona Reed.
Here.
And Carol Spring. Here. We have quorum.
Thank you. Next would be approval of the minutes. If all the board members have read the minutes as they were dispersed, I'd like to have a motion to accept them, please.
I move we accept the minutes as approved. Second.
Thank you. Neil first for the motion, and then Phyllis seconded. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to say that I want to be clear, the LAB makes recommendations and advises the Board of County Commissioners and the library. The Library Advisory Board is not a policy-making board. The next thing would be our open to the public. We're going to do this in 3-minute increments. If you'd like to speak and you haven't filled out a green card, if you do so and give it to Karen. When you reach the microphone, if you'd give your name so she can keep track of who's speaking. And also, if you have any statements or comments, we have a special item today about the library displays. If you'd hold those items until we get to that part, you'll have the opportunity to speak. But if anybody has anything else other than that, I would like to invite you up. Now would be the time.
Good morning, lab members.
Oh, if you give her your green card, state your name, please.
John Labriola, Inverness. I just wanted to comment on a couple of things before you get to the meat of today's meeting. And number one is there's a member up here who should actually not be participating in this meeting. I sent you all an email regarding a serious violation by lab member Phyllis Peters. She did engage in some sunshine law violations by emailing a member of the public who emailed all of you to ask you to respectfully consider voting in favor of the item that's coming up, which is to cancel the LGBT displays. And she answered in a very rude, unprofessional manner to her, copying all of you, telling her that she was insane simply for asking the LAB to vote a certain way. So clearly that is a sunshine violation. In addition to showing extreme unprofessionalism, Phyllis Peters also, as you all know, assaulted me at one of your meetings in October, approaching me aggressively and knocking the phone out of my hand. So I would ask you, in your role as chair, to make a ruling at this point and have her both recuse herself from this meeting and institute some kind of disciplinary action to follow up on that. The other point is one that you just made, which is that the item coming up is more in the form of a recommendation. Well, as you may know, the County Commission at the January 4th meeting stated, one of the commissioners who was the deciding vote on the issue of the LGBT displays stated that the board county commission should not be, or that, at least her position, that she felt that the county commission should not be the one deciding because it should be for the library advisory board to decide the issue. So it keeps going back and forth. When it's the BOCC, they say it's you guys that decide. When it's you guys, you say it's they that decide. So we know that there's a game going on here. So we're asking you to just get, as you prepare to listen to your next items, please consider carefully all the points being raised. But I would ask you to please address the issue of Phyllis Peters at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody have anything else other than the display issue? Okay, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Deborah Spence, Crystal River.
Oh, thank you.
I would like to basically thank the Library Advisory Board for what you do every year. I think it's a very thankless job, and you've been really under fire this year. Volunteering is a difficult thing to do, and to volunteer for a board is even more difficult, particularly when items are run through so many different press items. So I just want to stand here and say thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, so now I'd like to ask the board if they have any statements or comments about the special recommendation item that we're going to, the reconsideration of the library displays. And I'm going to start with the board and go around. Start with Elaine.
Is this on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In section 2 of our book, it's clear that Eric's supposed to submit policy to the governing board, and they are to decide on their policy, and we are to communicate with the public about those policies and with the commissioners about the timeline and implementation of those policies. So, as you stated, we are.
Pull it a little closer. Pull the mic towards you, Elaine.
That's why I was asking this, if it's on.
There you go. Yeah, better.
Okay, I'll start over. In section 2 of our manual, it's very clear that the commissioners are to make the policy, which is given, Eric puts in a recommendation to them. And we will interpret those policies, and we will give timeline back to the commissioners on that. We interpretate the policies to the public. So Eric needs to submit something on how he is going to address it to the commissioners, and then they have to decide on the policy, what they're going to implement. And we just communicate those policies. So I just want to make everybody aware of what we are responsible to do, regardless of anybody's feelings on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol.
No comment at this time.
Thanks. Ken.
No comment.
Neil.
No comment at this time.
No comment. No comment at this time.
No comment at this time.
No comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elaine, for your comments. So the next item on here would be our special item, which would be the reconsideration. And now if anyone would like to speak to this, you would have 3 minutes. And when you get to the podium, please give Karen your name.
Good morning. My name is Robert Tripp. I live in Homosassa. I just have really three short things to make a point on here. First of all, thanks for your service, because I know volunteering is a big thing, and it takes a commitment to do so. Points to be made. Libraries are taxpayer-funded entities. They're free to the public, but the taxpayers fund that. Therefore, you people that are sitting on this board have an obligation to steward that money correctly. And to do so takes a lot of courage, and it takes a massive amount of fortitude to stand against political ideas. The LGB agenda is a political one, and it promises a lifestyle choice. The lifestyle choice is something that shouldn't be promoted in the library system. I don't stand for that. It has no place in libraries. Libraries are for information, they're for education, they're not to drive political agendas. If you compare and contrast drug abuse in the LGB agenda, drug abuse is a lifestyle choice. The LGBTQ agenda is a lifestyle choice. You could put an information kiosk at the front of a library on drug abuse and show people how to do it, show them where to get it. It makes about as much sense as doing the lifestyle choice of the LGB agenda. So I don't think that we'd want to promote the drug abuse lifestyle, and I think that that point needs to be made. Should the library promote or maintain books on drug abuse and the impacts of it? In my opinion, yes. The LGB agenda doesn't deserve a special display. Should we promote it? No, it's an agenda that's political. I think that we should also understand that the information that's provided by the library should be done so in a way that's similar to drug abuse or any other thing that might be controversial, women's rights, the oppression of the South, those kind of things. So I think that today's agenda here should be to keep politics out of this library system and stay with what the library mission is, and that's to educate and provide information and to also meet the needs of the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, no applause. And also, if you would turn your phones off. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Thank you. Okay. Next.
I'm Marcia Barnum from Beverly Hills, and I'm not against the LGBT. As an adult, you have your right to make your own decisions. But what I do object to is the sexual nature. I'm a Christian. I believe in man and wife having sex, but do I want to display anywhere in my public library telling them websites or my position? No, I just think that it's wrong. My nephew was in 2nd grade, and they're teaching about homosexuality and all that, and because one of their slogans, I think, is love is love, but that's really not true, because there's brotherly love, which is in a friendship, whether it's male or female. So he's confused, and he says, now do I have to decide whether I'm gay or not? I don't think it's appropriate. I think they're too young to be hearing all this. And our state must agree with this, because there's a new legislature, and I understand that it's passed, it's just waiting for the governor to sign, that they can no longer teach about LGBT in the schools or have banners or anything like that. So if our state is saying this and our county is traditional, I just beg you to really think about who you're representing and not to allow those displays. It starts in small ways. And we were on a cruise, and the stop was in Key West. We didn't know it was Fantasy Week. So do we want our county to have, they had body paint and no clothes. I saw a man in a tutu, nothing else but body paint, riding down the street. I don't think this is the way our county wants to go. I think you guys do a fabulous job. I'm just asking and praying that you would not allow this and reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kathleen Tybus from Beverly Hills. Members of the Library Advisory Board, it does not seem fitting for our tax dollars to be subsidizing month-long displays and messages that expose children to harmful LGBT indoctrination, no matter how simple and innocent it may seem to some of you. In my personal experience, I have a transvestite grandson. We do not hate him. We love him. But we have told him we will not feed his delusion. We want to help him. We want to find help for him. And there is help out there. There's much information. The book that Mass Resistance has put out should have a couple of copies of it in every one of our libraries, because it is helpful for this situation. He has a 4-year-old daughter, my grandson, who tries to explain what is happening with her parents' lifestyles and partners. And Grandma says, that sounds kind of confusing. She said, oh, it's very confusing. This is a 4-year-old child trying to remember to use the proper pronouns that they want her to, it's very confusing for her. She's a darling little girly girl, and she's very happy to be so. But it's bringing confusion into her life as I see that should not be there for the child. The majority of citizens in this county are concerned about this ideology presented to their children and have signed petitions to stop this propaganda to young children. The wisest man who ever lived, Jesus Christ, said, if your son asks for bread, do you give him a stone? If he asks for fish, do you give him a serpent? In all good conscience, will you please make your decisions by choosing what is good and wholesome and safe for the children of our county? Your position on this board is a privilege, and we want you to use your privileges wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Roberta Cordry. I live in Crystal River, and I've been sitting here getting madder and madder. I am a gay citizen. I am a Christian. I'm an 8 or 9 year volunteer with the library. I don't think you can't turn someone gay by reading a book. Believe me, it just doesn't happen. And I just think it's wrong to force someone's views on the rest of us. I have no problem with information and...
Excuse me, just 1 second. Please, in the back, no comments, snickering, clapping. Please be quiet and respectful. Continue.
Yes.
Thanks.
So I think as a good citizen of this county, I think people should be able to do their own lives. I think the displays in the library are very helpful to anyone. If you want to look up something, you'll find it. I think the board has done a great job. I would hate to see the county commissioners take over the board. And I just think you need to think carefully about how you vote with this. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sofia Diaz-Fonseca, and I have to say I've been in your shoes. This is like one of the hardest jobs that there possibly could be, is volunteering and having to, unfortunately, deal with negative public opinion, but that's your jobs. So anyway, people have different points of view and different opinions, and the right to freely come to the public library to find answers, support, and proof behind those opinions, as well as challenges to those opinions, is the hallmark of freedom of speech. It scares me and saddens me when I hear people use religion as a reason to remove freedom of speech from others. If it's offensive to someone, this LGBT display, which was non-offensive, then what's next? African American displays? Latino displays? Because there's going to be someone out there with an opinion that is going to alter or change someone's lifestyle because they see information that they don't agree with. But that is not what we're about. The public library is public, and you can go in whether you pay taxes or not, because it's an institution created to open our minds, not to close our minds. Because the public library is a place all of us visit for answers, I'd like to hear the statistical, medical, or sociological study that proves that walking by or viewing an LGBT display is a bad example, corrupts, or influences any child of any age that walks into a public library. Without that intrinsic proof, only fear and hate is talking, and fear and hate is deadlier than any pandemic. Please, all of you, consider that once you go down this path, regardless of what the state of Florida states, you will be banning information and you will be banning the right for all of us to research, to learn freely in a public library because of opinion, not because of proof. Thank you so much and have a good morning.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Molly Coletti. I live in Citrus Hills, and I don't hate or have aggression or upset. I simply want to say that I'm against the LBGT display in the library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Steve Coletti, Hernando. I'd like to say that thank you for your service, but I would ask you to reconsider the displays because it's a political thing, it's a lifestyle, and I don't believe the taxpayer funds should be pushing any lifestyle. We understand what the reason for the display is. That's no different than an end cap in a supermarket. They want to get your attention, and my concern is for my grandchildren. When they walk in there, they're very curious. They look and they do, and they're affected by it, and that's why we protect them until they get older. As far as the adults are concerned, it doesn't bother me. We can make our own decision. Children are not that way. So I would ask you to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Robert Ramirez, and I live in Hernando. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak, and thanks for your volunteering. I am against this display also, and I think of, I'm a grandfather, a parent, and I think of my granddaughter, and I think, they say it's just a display. She'll be walking by it if she goes to a library, and I think of how curious and easily influenced she is. And I know all children are like that. And, I know that it's, I think your kids are being used in politics. I think this is getting more than just the display. I heard about somebody saying, agenda and stuff like that. And I was thinking, of the word, I hate to use words like this, but I was thinking of the word bigot, and I've been called a bigot too. And when I think of what I understand as the definition of that, it's a bigot is a person that doesn't accept any other buddy's views on certain things. And to me, if you call a person a bigot, well, you're not accepting their views. So it's really, you can't really call a person a bigot without being a bigot. And I feel that the choice, I think it goes down to me, the choice of the parents, that
Thank you. Your time has expired.
Good morning. My name's Margaret Hampton. I respect the position that you're in, but I feel very, very strongly that you should oppose this display or else comply with what a library is. It's an educational institution exploring the entire story. So if you are presenting one side and glamorizing it, then you must present the full picture. all of the body of medical and scientific evidence should be there also. This is educational. Research the entire field. And it also would be important to have there what the major religions of the world say, not just the 27 biblical quotes about it, but Islam commanding death and why. But the most important thing is the full education. And yes, the book, The Health Hazards of Homosexuality, is perhaps the most complete scientific compendium of authoritative scientific evidence. You have to consider that, first of all, we should not be promoting sex of any kind to our children, much less deviant sex. But let's think about health. This is not just an individual health issue, but a public health issue. It is documented that with the rise of the popularity, public media of homosexuality, we are now, for the first time in eons, facing an increase in the AIDS HIV epidemic. That saddens me immensely, especially when I lived in Atlanta. I had a number of dear, dear friends who were in that lifestyle. I loved them. We socialized. I respect individual rights. I respect the God-given free will to choose your lifestyle. Treat everyone equally, but don't promote something that is unhealthy to our children. It is proven the increased depression, anxiety, drug use, child pornography, and even child sex trafficking coming from the agenda. 20 years ago, I don't recall exactly what they named themselves, but it was the National LGBT Organization. I read their official mission statement and objectives, and it is not, please respect me as an individual. It was socio-political, and it was anti-single family because that disagreed with their agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. John Labriola, Inverness again. One of the previous speakers mentioned that petitions have been going around the community, specifically addressing this issue and requesting and demanding that the county stop these LGBT displays at taxpayer expense. And I have a package of them here. There's 800 signatures on these petitions. So who can should I give them to Mr. Head or
Give them to Karen.
Now, just to clear up some misconceptions about this, because the Citrus County Chronicle has been kind of spreading misinformation. The recent article stated that these displays were not in the children's section. That's kind of a cute way of putting it, because they were actually in the entranceways. So unless children are being dropped in through the chimney or something, they see them as they're coming in. And I have a picture of the displays. You've all seen them. I'm sure they were published in the agendas as well as the Citrus County Chronicle in the past. And these are this is a political agenda that's being promoted at taxpayer expense. It's been stated that these displays will not affect anybody. Well, then why are there so many people here that want to insist on these displays being here? It's clearly a socialization agenda. How can you explain the fact that the number of children identifying as LGBT has just gone through the roof? It's just quadrupled in the last 10 years, 20 years, as this agenda has been pushed over and over again in social media, in our libraries and in other places. The idea that children are born this way is a canard that's been debunked many years ago, over 25 years ago. There's no gay gene. It's a socialization thing, and this is part of the socialization. And that's why these people are all here. If it wasn't important to them, they wouldn't all be here insisting upon this socialization and this agenda being pushed. And it should not happen at taxpayer expense. In fact, the county commissioner, who was the deciding vote on not canceling it in January and sending it back to you guys, you ladies and gentlemen, was Holly Davis, and she stated that her feeling was that this her very strong opinion is this is needed for the children. She said children. This is about the children. So you need to dispense any idea that this is not about pushing it on the children. But even if there were a room in the library that was for adults only, it's still, the library should not be using our tax dollars to promote a particular political agenda. In October, there were no displays promoting Right to Life Month, Respect Life Month, nothing at all. So, you know, it is about the children, but it's also about our tax dollars being used to promote an agenda. It's not about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects citizens against the government, not the other way around. The government has no First Amendment right. The citizens do. And when our tax dollars are being used to promote an agenda that we don't agree with, that is a violation of the First Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Paula Sutton, and I live in Beverly Hills. I have a couple of different points to make, so they'll try and tie them all together. There's a big difference between a display and a book on a shelf. I don't believe anybody here is saying you can't have certain books on a shelf that you can walk over to. So I was a little confused by somebody saying that, you know, that was going to be the case. So we're not saying we don't want the books on a shelf. We just don't want a giant display that everybody has to walk through. I mean, if you're going to highlight one style of life, then I believe that every style of life needs to be done. I mean, yes, libraries are for information. You go to I guess they don't have the card catalogs anymore because I'm kind of old, but anyway, you probably press some buttons and you put in the title and you can find what you're looking for. And I'm not against that. I grew up in Augusta, Maine, and I had a really nice childhood. I went to the library there, and it was a great thing, but I was allowed to be a kid and do kid things and grow up later and get on with my life. I think policy matters. When I first started hearing about what was going on down here at the library, I thought, well, surely there must be a manual. I mean, surely they just can't like do whatever they want and make stuff up as they go along. And I've hired a lot of people over my life, and I always, when I hired or appointed somebody, I made sure they knew what was expected of them. You need to have rules and regulations and parameters within which you can perform your duties, and I think that would only make sense. So if nothing else comes out of this, maybe y'all could push for some sort of job descriptions so you know what's proper and what's improper. I think that would be a good topic to explore at further meeting. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Rena Murray. I am a lifetime resident of Citrus County, and the library is a place of education. Sex education has no place in any form of that. You don't need education to figure that out. It's natural. Science, by definition, is observation. And children will observe and perform anything that they are exposed to. There's no reason for any sort of display on a gay agenda or anything of any nature politically being in a library whatsoever. It's just that simple. The gay agenda's on the rise because it's in Disney and everything else that exposes to kids. If it didn't influence kids, then why would they be targeting the children? Get it away from the children. If they want to make their own children a decision as adults, that's fine. No one's attacking that. That's away from the focus of the facts. It is completely inappropriate to be promoting any form of sex to children. They should be focused on being kids. They should have their life learning all sorts of things that have nothing to do with any of this. It doesn't matter what someone's opinion is on it, but if you're going to start that, you better be pushing Right to Life Month. You better bring in Abby Johnson and have everything shown of what happens to women with abortions when they're botched. Everything better be pushed on Shelter Dog Awareness Month. Irish deserve their time, and you've got to really get focused on the Black History Month. You've got to start really paying attention to everything else and every side of stuff. You really don't want to open a can of worms on this because you can't be one-sided. That turns it into a whole political war, and you won't upset just one group. You don't have time for that. Just keep all the political out of the library because it doesn't belong there in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nathan Sharp. I live in Crystal River. I'm sad this morning. I'm sad that we're 9 months in and we are still here. We're still talking about this. And I'm saddened to hear hate and derision from my neighbors. I grew up here. I was born and raised here. There were no displays in the libraries when I was born here in 1976. We didn't have anything like that. And guess what? I still turned out gay. I didn't read a book and figure out that I was gay. You know, our country is not a theocracy. That's not who we are. If your children are ready to hear that the 12-year-old Virgin Mary was betrothed to a 30-year-old carpenter, you can hear that Sally has 2 moms. Sorry, that's just as simple as it is. You know, we sexualize our kids, whether if you realize it or not. You tell little Johnny, hey, he's going to be a heartbreaker when he grows up, when he's only 9 years old. We tell Sally Mae that she looks great in that dress at her quinceañera. No, you can't have it both ways. And finally, I keep hearing about choice. I wish I could have made a choice. I wouldn't have chosen to be gay. No, it's a difficult life to live, especially when you come back to your small hometown and find all this hate and derision. So no, not a choice. Thank you, everyone. Have a great morning.
Thank you.
My name is Patty Kendrick. I'm very nervous. I have a fear of public speaking, but I feel like I love the library. I grew up in the library. I don't have any hate. The only hate I'm feeling in this room right now today is against me, from the people and these friends of the library and everybody that think I'm full of hate, and I'm not full of hate. My only concern is age appropriateness. I feel like I didn't even hear the word sex till I was 14, and nowadays it's everywhere. Everywhere, children are confronted with questions like, "What gender do you identify with?" or suggestive stuff, and that's what I feel this display is. I feel like a display promotes something. We used to, when I was growing up, we had displays or advertisements on television for candy, for cigarettes. But we took that away, didn't we? Because children weren't adult enough to make that decision. So that's what I feel like this is. It's not anything against lesbian, bisexual, queer, transgender. These are words that I would never want to have to whatever to my 6-year-old. But I'm just saying this is a child protection issue in my mind. It's created by this new cultural fad, and I don't want to say it's a fad. It's a thing that's been promoted the last few years, and I think they refuse to acknowledge. I'm reading this now. That children have a right to childhood unmolested by adults with a political agenda. What's really needed is much stronger protection so that children are allowed to be children without being manipulated into making decisions that might irreversibly ruin their lives. And I'm just saying that I have tons of literature here that I've read, personal testimony from children who were just normal children growing up, but they saw displays like this and they thought, oh, it's so pretty. It's such pretty colors and it's so happy and love. I think maybe I want to be, And they did this, but in the end, a couple years later, they go, oh, no, that's not exactly it didn't work out the way that does display. It's not. There is a lot of anxiety and upset children in the world right now. They're walking around, they don't know what they are because they've been given this information to suggest that was the answer. I'm so sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Wayne Ellis, and I'm from Citrus Springs. In just short of 80 years, I've seen a lot of new beginnings in this country. There's an old saying, be careful what you ask for, because you just may get it. I retired as a high school administrator, and I saw a lot of this very same thing come into the school. I've heard this story again and again, many, many times. It always appears in the beginning to be very innocent with no hidden agenda. Let me strongly suggest to you that once you start a beginning and you continue in that direction, it becomes a journey. And it's difficult to change that direction. I guess a dinosaur now, just short of 80 years, a couple of months short of 80 years old. But I see the world moving too fast. It's just going too fast. I'll speak for myself. I can't seem to catch up with it anymore. The electronics and all the information and two people talking. There are people here today, I'm not prepared to speak for this, okay? I speak on the subject. But there are people here that have sat and they've thought it over and they've written it down. But I do know that this is going in the wrong direction. You can write a book, somebody else can write a book, and then somebody else can write a book, but that doesn't establish it as a true fact. I reiterate, please take your time, truly consider this, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning. I'm Deborah Daniels from Hernando, and I am a retired Citrus County educator. I'm an English teacher. I just want to talk a minute about the American Library Association, which has been around for a long, long time. And I want to talk also about their Rainbow Round Table that is at least 50 years old, probably a lot far older. It is the oldest LGBTQ professional organization in the United States. And they have Rainbow Month. And it's a celebration of authors and writing that reflect the lives of our LGBTQ community. And also, June is also Pride Month. And that is a commemoration of the Stonewall riots that were protesting against the perpetual police harassment and social discrimination against those minorities of the LGBTQ community. And that happened at the end of June of 1969. So for that reason, it is quite common in the United States of America for libraries to have the Rainbow Month, the Rainbow Book Month displays in June. This is not a Citrus County thing. Library displays are one of the most passive ways to draw attention to materials in the library. The materials are simply existing for library users to see and take if they're interested or not. There are many reasons why a person will not, especially as I am a secondary teacher with middle school and high school, there may be a reason a person will not approach the reference desk to ask a question that would reveal their gender identity, their problems at home, maybe physical problems, or even their religious identity. Questions are very personal. So you can see why a display and that passive presentation would be helpful to these people. Now, some would politicize the existence of our LGBTQ individuals by requesting an anti-gay or anti-LGBTQ display to give equal representation. Well, here's an analogy. Often in January, it's common for libraries to display Oscar-winning films. And so would library workers then put out a display for the worst rated?
Thank you. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, and I want to thank you all for your service. My name is Bill Fader. I live in Crystal River, and I am a gay man. And I am here to tell you I was not recruited by any individual, any book, any social movement My sexuality is not a choice. It is what God made me. The LGBTQ movement is not a political movement. It is not designed to recruit anyone, and I find it very offensive to hear otherwise. I cannot see how a simple display in our library to celebrate the diversity in our country can be offensive. I'm also a former educator. And I cannot tell you how many young people, and I was a secondary school educator, how many young people were fearful and hated themselves because nobody would take the time to give them information and they didn't know where to go. Where else can you go but a public library? You certainly can't go to the schools anymore. People say that this is unchristian. Well, I am a Christian, and the God that I believe in and Jesus Christ that I believe in said that this is the greatest commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and your mind and your soul. And the second commandment is the same as the first. Love your neighbor as yourself. He didn't say love your straight neighbor, love your white neighbor, love your black neighbor. He said love your neighbor as yourself. And the only other thing I would have to ask is how many people in this room have seen the display? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Dean Bales. I live in Homosassa Springs, and there's been a lot of talk about religion as being the motivating principle. I'd like to bring up another aspect that doesn't get talked about. It's kind of a lie of omission coming from the people who talk about their commitment to freedom of speech, and then they go do the opposite. I've read a lot of things. I cast a wide net for the truth, and I've read the Satanic Bible, and it's kind of an eye-opener because it advocates for the practice of homosexuality, bisexuality, whatever you want to do, do it, it says. Think about that. That's a religious book. Also, Charles Manson was a promiscuous bisexual, and he used religion to manipulate people. Think about that. He claimed he was Jesus Christ reincarnated. He twisted the Bible up one side and down the other. And I listened to the people that talk, who try to take a pro-perversion point of view and try to make it compatible with religion. And while, yeah, it is compatible if you look to the Satanic Bible. And I thought what was most noticeable about the Satanic Bible is that it does not advocate brainwashing people, pushing propaganda, using tactics of psychological manipulation upon people. In fact, you can go to the website in Wikipedia, psychological manipulation, and when they make their push for LGBTQ plus whatever, you can go and check the boxes down the list of tactics. And did you know this? The American Psychiatric Association initially classified sexual deviants, that's what it called them, as sociopaths. And sociopaths are notorious manipulators. Okay, if this library display is not manipulation, tell me why hunters don't have a 1 month display, or people like take off-road vehicles through the woods, or other people, other groups. Why? And okay, homosexuals top the list, and you know, their demographic group of some of the most notorious things. Serial killers, the most notorious of them. The largest bank failure was Colonial Bank, caused by a homosexual mortgage company that fed $1.5 billion of fraudulent mortgages to Colonial, which they choked and died on. You go down the list. The most notorious of all things, they are there. And this isn't hate, this is historic fact. but using hate is a tactic of psychological manipulation. They're trying to vilify people. And if you, like I say, go down the list and check the boxes, and it's a funny thing that the gay rights movement operates by the same tactics that sociopaths do.
Thank you.
What a coincidence.
Hello, my name is Anthony Mozo, and I live in Hernando County. And I just wanted to offer some of my thoughts on here. I was raised in Port Orange, Florida. I was born and raised, and my mother was very much. How about now?
Yep.
Okay, my mother was very much a Southern Baptist, and we went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and when I got out of school, I went 2 weeks vacation Bible school. But the Jesus I was taught is also known as the Prince of Peace. He was someone whom I don't believe if he was walking down to the Sea of Galilee with his apostles and there was a gay or lesbian couple that had been ostracized by their town, I believe he would have said, come on in and join us. I don't believe he would have said, no, you can't do that. And I think what you're seeing here is an awful lot of people who are using religion to further their own political position, and that has to stop. I've looked at Mr. Labrioli's writings, and he also presented, I believe to you, Mr. Head, a petition with 800 signatures. That's not a lot, you know, when you look at the overall numbers in this county. The other gentleman that was just here talked about Charles Manson. Charles Manson was a sociopathic murderer who went to jail for a long time. I don't care what he was. He was a criminal, and he needed to go. Now, what Mr. Amendola has also said is that Citrus County is blessed to be one of the most conservative counties in the state, but it's under siege. And you people have been labeled as liberals, dominated by bored ideologues. I don't believe that, nor do I believe you are have this insidious desire to try to push a homosexual agenda. I look over here, and I doubt there's a left-wing ideologue among you. And this particular board is really an example of representative democracy. You have been appointed by county commissioners who were elected by the people, and you are charged with handling these particular areas. Most of the time it's not controversial, and I love the library. I go to the Central Ridge Library all the time. I enjoy it. It's a nice, quiet place. But you have these things that, you know, this particular petition that Mr. Abernall submitted to you, Mr. Head, I know people who have refused to sign it because it was inflammatory. And all these words like left-leaning ideologues and you're pushing your leftist agenda, that's all inflammatory, and it's all garbage. It's simply not true. So I think what we have here is a group of people who unfortunately don't understand that our particular freedoms, freedom of speech, right to peaceably assemble, are procedural in nature. They apply to everybody. They don't just apply to certain groups. But what happens is, and this is going on all over the country with school boards, with supervisor of elections, they're being attacked simply because they don't agree with these groups. And I would encourage you to do what you feel in your heart.
Thank you.
And also, I got one last thing. Dick Cheney, when asked if he believed in gay marriage, he said equal means equal.
Thank you. Kathy Gates. I'm a retired teacher from Inverness. The county's looking for a new county administrator. Can you imagine being from out of state and seeing it come up on whatever openings like that come up on, and maybe you're sitting in another state and you go, ooh, Florida, that would be kind of neat. You know, I've really never heard about Citrus County. Let me do a search, online search, and see what I can find out about Citrus County. Oh, can't have New York Times there, can you? And 9 months later, we're still talking about this. You are an intelligent board. You make intelligent decisions. He researched about the first digital newspaper to come to this county. This was not something political, frivolous or anything. As a board, you decided this is what you want, and look what happened internationally. And now you're getting picked apart by this. You made a decision, a good decision. I'm sure researched it to have this display. From now on, every last thing you do is going to get picked apart. I'm surprised, as a retired educator, that they haven't picked apart the Black History display, because there may be some CRT in there, and, you know, it's going to influence our kids. You need to put your foot down, and you need to make your good decisions, because you research and you make your decisions, and stick by them, because they're going to pick apart absolutely every decision that you make from now on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Spence, Citrus County. When I was in school in the 50s, I was the first person in my family to be left-handed. And you may wonder what that has to do with today's discussion. We know that left-handedness is an inherited trait, and I assume that previous generations in my family had it beaten out of them. Left-handedness was seen as evil, sinister. It was against the Bible. Things on the right were good, things on the left were bad. There were scientific studies that were done back in the 1800s to talk about left-handedness and how criminals had a preponderance of being left-handed, so therefore left-handed people were bad. As I say, I was the first person who was allowed to be left-handed. Now future generations are all left-handed. We're a mix of people. The same type of studies that were done for left-handedness are the same studies that are being done for homosexuality. Homosexuality is not a lifestyle. There are very few gays and lesbians who would select this if they had an option for something else. We talk about our children, and we don't talk about children of drug abusers. We don't talk about children who go home hungry at night because there's no food there. We don't talk about children who have housing insecurities because the housing market is taking families and putting them on the street. There are so many issues regarding Citrus County right now that is being focused on the homosexuality issue. For those people, and I'd love to know of these speakers how many actually have library cards in Citrus County. The displays are not new. The displays have been going on for years. We celebrate Black History Month, gay rights, Women's History Month. We have all sorts of displays. And as a volunteer in the library, I can't tell you the number of times I see kids run right past those displays. They don't stop and look at them. They are not in the kids' areas. The people who are talking here have never been in the library and have no idea what the displays actually look like. We need the displays. I was at the Math Day field competition for Citrus County on Saturday. There were 200 kids there that were competing in trigonometry and geometry and calculus, the best and the brightest that this county has to offer. And I would estimate conservatively that at least 20 to 40 of those kids and those teachers are gay. Where do they go for support if it's not to the library? We don't want kids going on the internet and searching for things. We want things that have been approved. And it's up to you to maintain that ability to have things that have been screened to be honest and truthful. So let's keep Citrus County open. And as a taxpayer, I have to say that the public space is so important. And if you don't have a library card, and if you haven't been to the library lately, please come, because the library staff would love to see you all.
Thank you. My name is Bonnie Wilder, and I live in Hernando. We don't need a one-sided propaganda pro-LGBT display. However, we do need books which are factual and informative to help all people. Now, one book, and this is the third time I have held this up, both for our audience and all of you to see. This is The Health Hazards of Homosexuality. It's written by 5 medical doctors. They're not political at all. It's the facts. And I've learned so much from reading this book written for common people like myself. It talks about the psychological, emotional, and the medical facts of homosexuality. I care about all people. And one of the things I learned is that people who do have health issues and STDs, unfortunately, there is no cure for these, and it lasts a lifetime. And when children are involved early in their lives on these type of sexual activities, it only adds to the complexities and the health issues.
I've also learned that one reason why our health costs are soaring is because the STTs are never actually, they always last a lifetime, and you're never really like other diseases and have surgery, get over them. One of the gentlemen here referred to homosexuality in the Bible. I'd just like to tell you, yes, that is true. Of course that's true. Because we're all human, we're all people who sin and so forth, and we all need a Savior. But the one thing is that every time homosexuality is mentioned, it is shown in a negative light, because the way God made us is one man, one woman for a lifetime, and that is the healthy way for our entire society. I want to thank you very much for listening, and I just want the audience to see this as well. The health hazards of homosexuality, not biased medical facts, and it does need to be on the shelves where other books competing against this or political could also be on exhibit, but not displays which will influence children without their parents' approval. And yes, I go to the library quite frequently, and I know the people here also do that, I know as well. So I'd just like to add that. I want to thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laurie Pattengill, and I'm here from Homosexuality. I grew up in I was in the 60s, she was in the 50s, but I was in the 60s, and in the 60s, in the junior high, the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they had this thing called the Jaffe Memo, and the Jaffe Memo was I didn't even know who to call it, but basically it was a zero. Anybody remember the zero population growth movement? I was a part of that, and it made it so that it was very, very hard for me and my family, because I was taught at school that about abortion, and it was the beginning of the abortion movement. And my mother happened to get pregnant during that time, and it was for the 6th kid. And I was taught about every garbage bag, and the planet was going to be over in 10 years, kind of like the AOC thing of the world ending. So anyways, that's why I'm really interested in this, because I grew up with that. I saw how it divided me from my family, and I hate thinking that there are now campaigns going on that are dividing children from their families, from their parents, and it's really happening. The Human Rights Campaign is a powerful, powerful organization, and it is true. The Rainbow Book Month, thousands and thousands of libraries for you all to buy to make sure that this agenda gets put through. Their statement on Drag Queen Story Hour is that it sounds like a primary school, first grade teacher reading a little book to its classroom. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of what Drag Queen Story Hour is about and like, but let me tell you, the children look petrified. It is scary, it is abnormal. And the American Library Association backs this movement. The Florida Pride Month, we have this for the LGBTQIA plus community. How many more communities are there going to be? Statement of Freedom to Read. The library had to make on January 24th this year, it had to make a statement, because parents finally were like, what the heck is going on? This is exponentially increasing in our schools. That's why there is this room here. And we don't care we don't care who you have sex with, how you have sex with them. But we don't want sex discussed with our children. We don't need sex discussed with our children. Somebody said, they said, what is the problem with this? Really, what is the problem? The sex reassignment surgery market statistics for 2020 to 2026 is
your time's expired.
$1.5 billion value projection for sex change surgery.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tiara Otto, and I'm from Citrus County. And I'm nervous because I'm not a public speaker, and there's a lot of controversy about going on with this. And I believe very strongly in God. God gives us our freedoms, not the government. And I hear people talking about religion. God loves everyone. But in our word, he says, man and women. He created man and woman. And I try to love everybody. And I think that that's what God wants us to do. He says, love your neighbors, love yourself, love others as I love you. But he says, don't love the sin. He doesn't love the sin. And for these people who talk about religion, do they actually read the word? Because the word says it is an abomination to God for man to sleep with other men and women to sleep with other women. So I am totally against this being advertised. I love all people, and I know that God loves you. But please turn back to God. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Margie Peary, and I'm a recent transplant from Hawaii to Crystal River, and I'm really pleased to be here. You might wonder, why would you leave paradise? However, COVID kind of changed everything in Hawaii, and it was no longer paradise. But I'm loving being here. I'm grateful to all of you for volunteering your time. I know it's not an easy job. I'm recently becoming aware of this controversy, and I happen to believe, and I'm happy, while one of the speakers said he was sad, that 9 months later, you're still talking about this display. I'm happy that we're talking about it. It shows that the democratic process is working. It's alive and well. And that's part of who we are as Americans. It's about the democratic process. I've heard that hate has been displayed here. I'm sorry, I haven't seen that. I've seen a lot of respect. I've seen a lot of sincerity by the speakers. But hate, I haven't seen that. I've heard that speakers say the board is being picked apart because of your position on the June display. But again, it's our First Amendment rights that we all have. And in expressing those, if that's perceived as you folks being picked apart, again, I don't see that. I just see that as part of the democratic process. And if we're going to highlight every group, and I do believe this is a political agenda. Abortion is a political agenda. Right to life is a political agenda. We have lots of political agendas. But if you're going to highlight a specific group, you're opening a huge can of worms. There aren't enough months in the year to take every group and highlight them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Rohini De Silva. I have to tell you, I am an attorney, graduated from Columbia with honors. I'm admitted to practice in New York and California. And the reason I'm saying it is I am the lady who was called insane by one of your members. So that was highly insulting. Additionally, it was intended to intimidate not only me, but all of you. Because when you call somebody who opposes a position insane, you are threatening. You're threatening everybody. To change subjects, I want to thank Mr. Head. He gave me as much time as I wanted to explain my position. And so have you, because you are letting, if there are 50 of us, you will listen to us. Same with the BOCC. We are all trying to find a solution to a very tricky problem. But I think the answer is really quite simple. We have to only look at our children. All those books that you are displaying, which I have given you again, I emailed all of you, there's a list of those books. They're all targeting our children. How to have sex, anal sex, oral sex, this, that, and the next thing. When you hear people talking, they're talking about their feelings, adults. What we need to talk about is children's feelings. Because that's why you're having all these complaints. Nobody cares if somebody wants to do something by themselves. What we do care is that you leave our children alone. The harm done to them is enormous, psychological and everything else. And I gave you an example of Afghanistan, where they take little children and rape them. And it's treated with utmost contempt, that behavior. But that is the behavior you are promoting. Because LGBT started with, don't mind what we do it in the privacy of our bedrooms. They're now in our schools, they're in our little girls' bathrooms, they're swimming with our females. I mean, it's crazy. It's on Disney. Everywhere you turn, every cartoon is telling the little children, you ought to have multiple identities, you ought to be gender fluid, and all of that. So I've given you a solution. Isolate those books. Anyone who wants to read them is welcome to come in there. But don't give it to our children.
Thank you.
Good morning. I just wanted to give my thought on the subject. I believe that we all have a right to live however we want to, make whatever choices we want, to be gay, etc., or to not be. I'm sorry. So I think that in this situation, I believe it is kind of advertising this organization, and I don't think it has any part in the library at all. I mean, you're free to live however you want, whichever side you choose, but you could put a bumper sticker on your car or paint your house or, whatever you want, but not in the library. And for children, like this person who was just up here, we need to let children make their own decisions and not be advertised. So that's basically all I want to say. Oh, Drew Lobianco from Inverness. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
From Citrus Springs. Well, I'm sorry.
You already spoke, so we have to give the other people their chance first.
I'm sorry.
You already spoke on this issue?
Yes.
Yes, it's a one-shot deal. We have to give the people that haven't spoken a chance.
I'm Mark Conley from Hernando. I would like to start off by saying I do go to the library frequently. And while somebody tried to suggest that these attacks on the gay pride displays are similar to what, that people will also attack Black History Month or displays because of CRT. I actually went to the library deliberately, several of the libraries deliberately during Black History Month to check to make sure that CRT, which I would object to, was not part of the displays. And I would like to thank the library and the library board for exercising that kind of restraint. I primarily want to speak to the gay pride displays. Now, what I have heard from the people who are objecting to the gay pride displays is their objection is to the positioning of these displays and the use of these displays to promote and encourage the discussion of LGBT lifestyle in children who come to the library. And the displays aren't really for the adults. The displays are for the children. The gay community is trying to groom our children to join their forces. And if it was for the adults know where to go in the library to find books that they want to find about their gay, lesbian, transgender lifestyle. Also, I wanted to point out that the only people in this meeting this morning who have strayed from the substantive arguments about gay pride displays are the people who are objecting or advocating those displays. They have made numerous ad hominem attacks on the other speakers who have objected to the use of these displays to groom homosexuality. I also want to object specifically to Phyllis Peters' actually ad hominem attack on Rohini De Silva, calling her insane and using that as a means to influence the discussion that was going to take place this morning and the decisions that are going to be made by the members of the Library Advisory Board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gil Phelan. I'm from Lecanto. On the wall out there, we have some documents. It says, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish it. And that's what we're seeing today. The best result of this stolen and fraudulent election we had in 2020 is that, interesting, huh? It's funny. I've been going door to door, knocking on doors, and I know the people who do. So if you doubt that the election was rigged, maybe you get out there and knock on some doors, you'll find out. Anyway, my personal thing is every single incumbent, Republican, Democrat, Independent, go. We need a fresh start. I've been to several of these meetings over the last couple months, and I heard a lot of lies. One of them was, this board isn't like the Supreme Court. They don't get their appointment for life. Guess what? They do. That was purposely being hidden from us. That was not a mistake. Okay? That's part of us being awake now. I heard a homosexual telling us that he has a wife. You know, if you look in a dictionary, wife is a female spouse. Okay? These are facts. Homosexuals telling us that they have children. They may be able to buy them, but they can't create them. It's kind of like that lady just talked about, the zero population deal. That's what would happen to our society if this was normal. And there is no such thing as transgender. That's a fake word. You're either a man or a woman. You may want to pretend different. Please don't make us, okay? I saw the email from the aggressive lab member telling the lady she was insane. Did you see this week where a man, number 500 in the country, is now the women's champion? That's insane. How about the fake fraud mental health admiral we have, women with the Woman of the Year award? That's insane. Worst of all is a high school boy being allowed to wear a dress and rape girls in a ladies' bathroom and being sent from school to school so he can continue doing it. All this lunacy is the result of the sick, twisted, and perverted stuff that you're so intent on destroying our children with. Okay? And your own handbook says you don't care how dangerous it is. It's up to you people to decide what our children learn, not us parents. You're wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vicki Robinson Hernando, Director Head, thank you for your graciousness in all this matter. I am pretty positive today that I'm not going to win any hearts to Christ, so I'm not even going to start because I don't think that's the issue. I don't think that you have to be solely of a political persuasion or a sexual persuasion to know who your Lord and Savior is. All I can speak on is the fact that I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I'm going to give you a small analogy right now that I hope explains my position, and that is I've got 5 grandchildren, and there's a reason why I don't ask the 6-year-old to carry my luggage out to the car when we go to the airport. It's simply because my luggage is so heavy, and the 6-year-old isn't equipped to handle it, to carry it. That 6-year-old is just a child, and there's an innocence about him. It's the same with matters like this. Innocence is a fleeting thing, and it's only around for a couple of years. I'm not one looking to burn books or ban books. I think that there should be a section for LGBTQ information in our libraries, and to address all of the homosexuals in our audience today that have admitted that they didn't have books or whatever when they were children, it didn't keep them from knowing what their sexual identity was as an adult. We have an obligation. I'm all about protecting our children and doing what's age appropriate. I also have a nephew that's larger than his age, for his size. He's young, but he's very large. People automatically assume he can carry a big load. But I know he's only 7. I know he's not ready to handle it. As a family member, not the mother in this case, but I know what that child's ready to be able to absorb and accept and not put the pressure on that child that he's not ready for. That's our job as adults. We're the adults. We have to protect our children. It's not our adults to introduce these topics to them when they're not ready. It's the parents' it's the parents' job. And I strongly believe that that's what it's all about. If there's a young homosexual child coming up, they know how to use the internet, they know how to research books, they know how to go into the library themselves. I don't know, do you even use the Dewey Decimal System anymore? I don't think so. But do they? I don't know. But they can find this section if they're afraid to approach the people at the desk.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for allowing us to speak to you. We are not attacking you. No one's attacking you. This is an issue that we're all dealing with, and so it's rather a neuter thing. Is that right? Can you hear me
No.
now? Can you speak in I'll try. Except I forgot my glasses. Are they right there? Okay, just a minute.
Good idea. She forgot her glasses.
Yes, Barbara Lord, and I live in Hernando. Thank you for listening. According to Genesis 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In America, we have taught our children that they have come from chance. I don't know who Chance is. I don't know what he looks like. Is he a fiction? Does he exist in our mind? What power does chance have? In Genesis 1:27, God created man in his own image. He created him male and female. He created them. But in America, we can claim to be whether we want to be male or female, we can claim that because we live in America. Is this rebellion against God? It's something to think about. In Exodus 20 and in other passages in God's Word, God said, we are not to murder. For 5 decades, we have murdered millions of preborn and some even born babies. But in America, this is legal. Do you see a pattern? Today we're considering whether we as a community library should put up a display which will promote and recruit for the homosexual lifestyle, which can become bondage for many participants, and I know there are those who would admit to this. In Leviticus 20:13, God says, when a man lies with a woman, when a man lies with a man, it's an abomination. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 lists homosexuality among other types of sins, such as thieves, adulterers, extortioners, and others. Romans 1:26-27 says, even women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Homosexuality is a perversion, and it is a choice. No one is born, there is no scientific evidence to prove that someone was born a homosexual. Jesus said, whoever causes one of these little ones, who believe in me to sin.
Your time has expired. Thank you.
Oh, no. Okay. All right. Please be courageous and do what is right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Diane Campbell, and I live in Floral City, Florida. And I'm also a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and a mother of children. I took care of children for 30 years and out of my home as daycare. And I also took care of the elderly at nights and weekends, too. And that was 20 years of that 30 years. So I worked all the time. And in that time, I raised my children the way I wanted them to be raised, to a certain point. I've told them until they're 18 years of age, you're supposed to live by our rules. If you want to turn gay or whatever you want to do afterwards, that's entirely up to you. That's not going to, if you're gay at 14 or 12, you're going to be gay at 18. Children's minds aren't developed all the way until they're older. We all know that. Well, we should know that. I don't believe that the books should be in the library where our younger children, at least, should not have the opportunity to go and read it unless the parent takes them to it. Not for when they walk in the door, or it's in the children's section, or either that or just put them up on the shelf top so the parent has the right to decide what, when, and where their children will learn about sex is what it used to be. You know, we were supposed to be the one to teach our children. Am I correct? We gave birth to our children. LGBT didn't, we did. And I think we should still have the right to make a decision on our children's lives and try to encourage them and steer them in the right direction, or what direction we think is right, because we are their parents. We gave birth to them, not them. And that's pretty much all I got to say. And I do have a transgender granddaughter that's now my grandson. And it's been very hard for us to explain out of 5 granddaughters that one of them out of the 5 has wanted to be a male, has cut off her breast, changed her name, and everything else. And it's very hard to explain to them. And I don't know if anybody else has gone through that, but I think they should think about it before they put these books out there for these children to just decide on their own, without their parents, of what they want to turn into. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Cushman. I live in Citrus Springs, and I'm going to be real short and brief. I'm a child advocate. I know what volunteer work is. It's hard. Thank you for volunteering. We need volunteers. But I am a child advocate for children, and I'm asking you to keep the library the way it is, without the literature, without the displays. These children are bombarded every day. Our world is crazy. I want them to stay innocent. It's just what I work for. I want them to be innocent for as long as they can. Help me do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mary Ann Parker from Homosexuality. I am against having the gay lesbian displays in the library, but honestly, I couldn't add not one thing to the rest of the speakers that spoke today, because they really voiced every concern I could ever repeat. So just want to say, okay. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Rose from Inverness, and I raised a gay son who was totally confused, totally alienated, didn't know what to do or say, and finally, when he came home from college, he decided he would tell us he was gay. Well, I knew it, and I think a lot of other people knew it, but because of fear of hatred, fear of being hurt, just plain confusion made him keep it to himself, which was very painful. And I think a display would have been something he really could have used, something that would have told him that what he wasn't evil, wasn't wrong, or anything else. And I'd also like to ask these people who are so concerned about what the people see in the library, what they think of the F. Biden signs that are all over the place. Flags, banners, one of which is right on a direct school route to Hernando School, which the kids see every day going to school and from school on the bus. Now, I would really be concerned about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Lenora Nelson, an educator here in Citrus County in elementary schools and middle schools. And I thank you for your time and your patience. I apologize for the constituents behind me that have led off the track to keep it longer, to keep it to the point, and the point is about the display. I am not for the display. I did some research before coming and have found that there are 27 other options we have for the month of June. Some of them very dear and near to our county. As a Purple Heart County with veterans, PTSD Awareness Month is the month of June. We have a dairy that kept running and gave away milk to all of our citizens and the schools in Florida right here in our county. It is National Dairy Month. Considering all that we have heard, and I am so appreciative for the people that kept it on track, that this is a democratic process, and that you are volunteers that have done above and beyond, not only today, but continually to represent us, the citizens of Citrus County. Though I am presently 4th generation family that use the library. I have 4 generations that go there. I have children who volunteer there. We have known children's librarians that have graduated on to being friends and not just librarians anymore. And I would prefer that this board think about the fact that this is very controversial. There are both sides that are affected, both negatively and positively, and we would prefer that we pick something else to represent our library system in all generations and all age groups during the month of June. Thank you for your considerations.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jerry Kelly. I live in Hernando, and to the lady sitting behind me, I have a library card. I've had one for over 20 years. And I would like to refer to something Ron Kitchens, the commissioner, made in his opening remarks regarding this issue. And he said that it should not be placed above national holidays. A very astute question. Sometimes it's necessary to look back to be able to go forward. This is one of those occasions, too, where that may apply. Could I get a census of the board members who have lived here since 2001? Could you raise your hands, please?
It's a public comment section. We can't respond.
Okay. Looking back, we had an issue regarding the gay community back in 2001 where we wound up having to close a city park in Crystal River, Yeoman's Park, if some of you recall. The reason was it actually showed up on a national register as a place to hook up, in their words. And because of the behavior in that in public areas, it became necessary to close that park. So, of course, you'll find that I am opposed to the displays. I think that they are anything but helpful. I have been an elected official in Citrus County. I've held that office. I've sat on that side of the table. I know the difficulties in making these hard decisions, and that these are hard decisions and they rest in your lap. We ask you to do the right thing. We ask you not to put a target on our children's backs. And you hold that responsibility. And to put it in your own words, Chairman, you says it's a one-shot deal to get it right. You're correct. And we ask you to make the right choice in behalf of everyone in Citrus County, not in behalf of a few in Citrus County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Me again.
I'm sorry. It's a one-time speak.
Okay, I thought I saw some people come through twice.
No,
as
no.
long as there was no one behind them.
Nope.
I
We
thought that
one
was
each.
okay.
She's got the cards there.
Okay,
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Oh. Okay. Come on down.
Good morning, and before I forget, thank you for all you do. I hate microphones. I'd like to start by, my name is Paula Sutton. I live in DeRosa North. I'm an educator in Florida, retired, and over 20 years ago, the political system said that we would teach sex education in schools. That was a political agenda. The political agenda is a set of issues that are subject of decision-making and debate within a given political system at any one time. Now, 22 years later, they're saying we can't do that. that's a political agenda. Library displays are not a political agenda. Another person stood up here today and said there was an explosion of, I don't know, a gayness. When I researched that, what is our population of gays in America, I came up with a percentage of 7.6. So I'd have to say that factually that's not a true statement. It is an opinion. And an opinion is a view or judgment formed about something not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. We're dealing with a lot of those on both sides of this issue. And I think we need to go back to what is the purpose of a library. This is not Citrus County's mission statement. This is a general mission statement I took off the web. Our library offers a welcoming and supporting environment where we are committed to ensuring that everyone is competent and ethical users of information with strong intellectual curiosity and the lifelong love of reading, learning, and independent thinking. I do not believe displays are turning our children gay. I do agree that it seems like a lot of them are exploring that at this time. That's a discussion for the family, not for the libraries. I would like to end today by saying libraries are our most democratic institutions. Libraries ensure people have access to information and lifelong learning regardless of age, education, ethnicity, gender, language, income, physical limitations, or geographic or barriers. Libraries strengthen communities and help create a more literate and just society. I feel like today's discussion has been the most civil on both sides that we have had in this last 9 months, and I'm very happy we've gotten to that point. I do believe the animosity started on the other side, needed to stop. I hope it does, and I hope you can come to a decision that reflects what we need to do as a community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else that hasn't spoken, would you like to speak? If not, I'll close this portion of the meeting. Okay, that's all our speakers on our special item. We'll move on to, So after that, does anybody on the board have a comment they'd like to make? And I'll start with Elaine.
I'm going to recommend that Eric puts together a resolution that's satisfactory to the public for the commissioners to address the policy that they want to go forward with that we will have to institute. Thank you.
Carol, do you have any comment?
Can she repeat that? The last part of that? I didn't hear what the last.
I asked that Eric would put together the policy that he recommends for the commissioners to review and approve of for us to go ahead and follow through and report on the timeline of institution for the public. Thank you.
Okay. And Carol, do you have any comment?
Just that I think there's a lot of ignorance around exactly how displays are created. I haven't seen every display in every library. So I think the staff has heard a lot of interesting nuances in order to create a library that is for the entire community. I got an email the other day from the Supervisor of Elections that indicated how many registered Democrats, Republicans, and others there are. And if we were to say that because there are more of one party registered here, that that's the party that gets to decide everything, that's not democracy. So I think it's important that we have a policy that does reflect a thoughtful process that takes into account the sensibilities of everybody. I also know that, like one of the speakers said, the percentage of potential students that are seeking their own identity has been documented by the Florida Department of Education along with the National CDC, and it's around anywhere from 8 to 10%. And this isn't new, but it is part of the Florida education system's analysis. And their concern is that all students feel safe and secure in their school. So we also want them to be safe and secure in our library. And yes, their first area of being safe and secure is in their home. So as we think about how we go forward to listen to the community, and we also have listened to the community, but there are others that haven't been here today that we haven't heard from. So I think that's where we look to some of the research that has been done, because we do know that the issue of bullying and potential suicide is a big issue in our young people. So I'm very pleased with the staff that I've met, the folks that are out at the community programs, the festivals, and they are trying so hard to reach out to our entire community. Education comes from the Latin word that means to lead out of, not to cram down into. I always appreciated that from one of my professors. So I passed I think each of us looks forward to working with the staff to provide the best educational opportunity for our citizens, young and old. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, do you have anything?
No, not at this time.
I think we need to make a clarification on just especially what Elaine said, which I totally agree with, and you guys are not going to like this, but we are not a policy-making board. And I think that was part of the misinformation that started this thing snowballing, is I think there was an assumption that this board selects displays, which we do not, okay? This board determines what is displayed in the library. We do not. That is not our job. That is not our responsibility, and we cannot tell Eric, we cannot tell anybody what to do. Anything we do is a recommendation. We are an advisory board. That is our legal description. What we have done well is bring you guys together. This is what we do. We are the liaison between the administration, the commissioners, and the public. We were not selected for this board because we were going to make library policy. We were selected to this board because we want to represent the community, their thoughts, okay, whatever they may be. We want to give you an avenue for coming and having people listen to you, which we have done. But we never, ever will be able to write policy because that is not, we can't do that. Okay, so I'm hoping that this will maybe correct some misinformation out there, because we even had one of the commissioners in the Sunday's paper article in the Chronicle said that the Library Advisory Board selects the displays. We do not. Okay. What can happen is if the administration says, we've got some discussion here, what do you think about it? All right, why don't we pull some people together and talk about it? Okay, we can say that we want to bring people together, which is exactly what happened today. Okay, we can even go to the commissioners and say, there's a problem here that we would think that you ought to address. And does this mean maybe that we should readdress how policies are made? We can recommend that. Should we readdress what their checklist is for displays? We can recommend that. Okay, and we would be more than happy to take people's complaints and make sure that they get to the proper place. But we don't solve those complaints, okay? So all of these accusations, it's kind of ironic, all these accusations that we say have been coming at us could have been corrected at the get-go for somebody explaining, okay, we are an advisory board. Check the bylaws, check the libraries throughout the state of Florida, the mission of advisory boards. Okay, so I hope this clarifies, because we can make some great suggestions, but we can't make policy. Okay?
Thanks, Neil. Thank you. Okay,
Lorraine? I have no comment other than I thank you for clarifying that, because I'm right behind you on that.
Edith?
Okay, my name's Edith Ramlow. I am a librarian at the College of Central Florida, Citrus campus. I've been on the board for the longest, 15 years. And I have to make clear that what I'm saying today is not as a CF employee. I've listened to the Board of County Commission meetings that I was not in attendance at originally when this issue came up. And I listened to all of it. I listened to the comments. I listened to the commissioners. I've attended some of the commission meetings and went back and listened to those as well. I asked Mr. Head to have as many books as there could be. You know, there are books that are checked out from what was on the display in June. These books that I'm seeing are a bunch of novels. There's 2 books that are, you could say, are more along the lines of, you know, just by their title, judging a book by its cover, that are more non-fictional rather than fictional. And so, you know, they're here for you to look at. If you didn't see the display, you saw the pictures. One of the pictures, the one at the display at Lakes Region, had enough background that I could tell that it was very close to the entrance of the children's area. The one at Coastal, I'm not familiar enough with the background. It's a very tight shot. I couldn't tell you if it was close to the entrance or not of the children's area. What I have heard in listening to the county commission meetings, reading through emails, going online, looking at discussion posts, et cetera, is what seems to be, besides what I heard here in this meeting as far as like protecting our children, what I'm hearing and seeing is a call for balance, not only in the collection, but in the book displays. And so I don't see anything unreasonable about when there is a topic for the gay and lesbian. Don't ask me to name all the initials, because it's kind of like right now under talking in front of everybody, they just went out of my mind. But basically, there should be other viewpoints, other book displays that have a balance to the types of book displays that were shown in June. As far as our LAB member who it was requested that her vote, if we take a vote this afternoon, or well, not quite this afternoon, this morning, recuse herself. That's apparently up to her at this moment. And so, you know, if I can say for myself, my child is now 16 and still in that thrux and throw of discovering her identity, who she is and who she wants to be. And we had a good discussion last night at the dinner table. Just exactly, where do her and her friends gather their information? Now, we didn't let her have a phone, especially a smartphone, until she turned 15. And that was hard for her. However, information from YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, even Facebook, Instagram, she couldn't get those things on her phone, but her friends could. And that's where she told us, quite honestly, where she got her information. Mom, I didn't get it from a book. I got it from my friends. Where else can she go to get good, strong information? Well, guess what? She still didn't go to the library. She came to me, her parent, as it should be. Whatever side, for all sides, that child is your responsibility. Could I stop her from speaking to her friends? If she wanted to go to the library, she could hop on her bike and take off and go. It's a neighborhood community library. I work at a library. She knows how to access databases and other information other than social media. So for myself, I say whether there's a display in June, a display in October for Pro-Life Month, displays in April for Child Abuse Prevention Month, or any other month or day of the year that speaks to families of any side. There should be balance. Thank you.
Thanks. I have no comment at this time. Thank you.
No comment at this time.
Okay, so I'd like to thank everyone for their comments, and I'd like to thank the board. Just a little clarification, in June there are many displays, as have been suggested, Flag Day being the biggest one, and LGBTQ was the small one, so we'll see what happens this year. I'm sure in the next meeting we will be discussing it further. Let's see. Oh, somebody did bring up about taxpayer monies being used. I just want to let you know that a lot of the materials, I don't know if everybody's aware of this, are purchased. There are a lot of donations. The book sale just made $35,000. Most of that goes for the collections and the books. So if you're worried about what the material that is being purchased with taxpayers, I just want to let you know that a lot of it is donation based. And I think that would close this portion of our meeting. We have all the comments. The next portion would be report of offices.
There wasn't a motion. There wasn't a motion.
There's no motion on the floor. Okay, so we're moving on to report of officers and standing work groups. That would be 7. We don't have anything at this time. And then 8 would be regular business. That would be the director's report, and that would be Eric.
Well,
you can clarify.
I want to clarify, Elaine, what you said, was that a motion?
Yes, for Eric to go ahead and do his portion of his duty from Section 2 to put together a policy to present to the Board of County Commissioners, which they get to approve or deny.
Thank you.
That worked.
Okay, so so Elaine is making a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
And is the motion for
To make
a
the
display
policy that's satisfactory to the public for the Board of County Commissioners to review and either approve or deny.
Well, if I could add one more thing there. There is a library policy, and I don't know, Eric, if you want to speak to this today or not, but there is a library policy in how they do everything, actually, from collection development to, buying books to deciding upon displays. They have, you all asked, and the point was made here on the board, that the Library Advisory Board is an advisory board. We can make recommendations. If I would have known, much like we have a PR report each meeting, and many times we're aware of events or PR that has taken place already and or events that are coming up. If we were to have known what types of displays were going to be occurring, this board could have advised on that display back in June. So that is part of the policy that, there's already a policy that is put in place for staff to decide upon library displays. The only thing that we may add, and I'm not making a motion at this moment, maybe we might want to discuss this a little further. Maybe we might add that we, as those displays are decided upon quarterly, that we have a report, just like the PR report of events coming up, that we also know what displays are coming up. And so if we want to make that a motion or have some more discussion on that, we can amend Elaine's motion to include that.
Normally, we do have a report of the upcoming events pretty far in advance. We don't micromanage in any way. We do get notice and we have discussion about it. And that's normally the way that it's handled.
We have no problem in including display topics as part of the quarterly process. I mean,
Correct.
that we just add that to the PR report.
Correct.
And that's not an issue. I think we would just do that as informational, providing to the board, just as we would any other meeting. So, with the caveat that there are times when, certain types of displays, like if, a famous person passes away or those sorts of things would come under a particular category of just recognition of certain people. But most displays are, and really it's not a policy issue, it's a procedural issue. So the way that displays are worked through the system, the staff gather their stuff quarterly, as Edith indicated, and book displays, on an average, there's probably anywhere between, in any given library, 3 to 5 or 6 or 7 or more book displays throughout a library at any given time. There's permanent displays like new books displays, friends books displays, those sorts of things. But what we try to do is all of the topical displays or informational displays, they're put together on a quarterly basis, usually a quarter ahead. So we could certainly coordinate that to make that just part of the PR. There wouldn't need to be any motion for that. That's just providing this board with information.
Additional information that we receive
Thank you,
some of that. We
Yes.
would just receive
Certainly.
more of that.
Yeah.
A more thorough, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That would clear that up.
Great.
Any other discussion from the board?
I think you have a motion on the floor that.
Yeah.
And
Okay. And so the motion on the floor is Elaine's motion for Eric to, you want to reread that, please?
Did anybody second that motion? I didn't hear a second.
No, there's no second.
Second.
Okay, now.
you're good.
Did someone second it?
Right.
Yes.
Just a point of clarification for Elaine's motion, it would be a recommendation to create a policy.
Okay.
Create
So,
a policy example for the board.
okay, that's what I wanted you to tell us exactly what
Absolutely.
the motion was.
Okay, can I have a clarification of what you just said?
That's what I want.
Right. She can't direct as an advisory board, as Ms. Brennan has already pointed out. As an advisory board, you're making the recommendation that the library
For you to have a
staff-
policy, not for us to have a policy.
Correct. She's making a recommendation that I draft a policy statement and include that as something to go to the library governing board for consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Right,
That
and that-
cleared up the motion.
Okay.
And I like that distinguishment between the library governing board versus the Board of County Commission. There's three levels here. There's the library advisory board, the library governing board, and then the Board of County Commission.
Correct. Okay, so there's Elaine's motion. We had the first and we have the second. That would be Edith, correct?
And you
Correct.
have to have public comment on that.
Okay.
Since it was a motion and a second.
Okay, so now we'll have a public comment section on the motion. If anyone would like to comment? Wait, one moment, please.
I think, isn't this covered in the, adding it to the PR, to our reports?
No, it's two separate items.
Okay.
Would be a separate item.
Okay.
Okay, so now we would like, sorry about that, we would have public comment. And this is strictly on the motion as it's presented. No other comment, please.
Yes. Good morning, John Labriola again, Inverness. It sounds to me I think I need a little clarification on what that is as well. And it sounds like the motion was to have Eric Head, based on the discussion that took place here from the public, et cetera, to devise a policy regarding displays that then would be discussed and voted on by the county commission. Because I just wanted to point out that the county attorney, Denise Lynn, at the January 4th meeting, stated that as far as policy goes, that is a function of the county commission, not the library governing board. That the library governing board, apparently their role is to vote on the library budget, as well as apparently at this point the discussion is that they could also appoint members to the library advisory board. But as far as the policy issue itself and displays and things of that nature, the county attorney has ruled that that would be a function of the county commission, not the library district governing board. But I think that I would prefer to see, maybe an amendment to the motion that specifically addresses the concerns that the public has raised today, and that particular ideological agenda not be promoted as part of any policy that is devised. And that would be obviously a recommendation. But if the maker of the motion could, clarify that and maybe make that part of the motion, that the LGBT or the sexual orientation, promotion of sexual orientation, not be promoted in displays that have not just books out there, but we've seen the advocacy aspects of it with slogans and so forth of that nature. So that's what I would like to see, if that motion could be, clear, really tightened up a little bit in terms of that language, because it is an advocacy issue here. And the other thing is that that it seems to keep going back and forth, and nobody wants to touch the hot potato. So the county commission, by a one vote margin, said, okay, we don't want to discuss, we don't want to decide this. We want to leave it to the library advisory board. We come to the library advisory board and say, well, it's not our job, it's the county commission. It keeps going back and forth. And it is a game that's being played because nobody wants to make the hard decision. So that's why I would like to see the motion have a little bit more teeth, so the recommendation is clear to the county commission. This is what we want you to do. We want, and I appreciate what Board Member Ramlow did say, and I appreciate that, about the issue of the balance. If there's no balance, then there should be no displays, because if you can't represent every single group, with like racial
That's
life and
not
stuff.
what I said.
Well,
but
I just want I appreciate what you said about the balance, but as far as that goes, I think it's impossible to represent all the views, is what I'm trying to say to you. It's possible to represent all the views, so you can't really have a balance of all the views. So just remove all the political agendas. I think that would be something that I would like to see in the motion. Thank you. Anyone else have a comment?
I think you should leave the motion as it is. We've heard a lot about ideology, and we continue to hear about it. That needs to stop. This isn't about that. This is about people, about equal rights, And as Ms. Ramlow said, I think it is about balance. But also, the chair spoke that these libraries have multiple displays from different people, from different groups. But you have one group here who is telling you that they don't like the display of LGBT, and my particular opinion is that is simply wrong. Equal means equal. Everybody has their rights. This is a procedural state. It's not a substantive state. And I would suggest that you just leave the motion as it is.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gil Phelan again from Lecanto. I remember at the Board of Commissioners meeting, Kitchen himself was very, very clear on saying the sexual nature and the sexual orientation is what he wanted to eliminate. Okay, so I remember that distinctly. Number two, I really think, hearing all this back and forth, get rid of the displays. Okay? But what kid goes to the library to talk to who? To the janitor, to the librarian about their sexuality and the gayness? That's not what the libraries are for. That's what the family is for. So just get rid of all the displays. Make it simple. You're not going to spend any money on them, right? Let somebody go in there and get the books like normal people. Just go get a book. We don't need the advertising. And that's what that stuff is. If it wasn't advertising and it wasn't meant to sway somebody's opinion, why do you have it there? Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Spence, Citrus Crystal River. Here where I am at this point. I vote that the motion stand as it is without any amendments to it. It appears to be right now that it's a win-lose situation, and somebody wants to win and somebody wants to lose today. And I think it's such a hot topic issue that we really need to step back and let the library deal with this through their processes. There's just too much, and let it stand.
Anybody else?
I have a question for Eric. Did you say that you had a policy already and a procedure that everybody goes through in designing what books to purchase, what the displays will be? Is that already in existence?
Our current policy on purchasing and collection development is in existence. That's actually the purchasing of books, the type of books, and the process that we go through for books. The display issue is vague. It's not as robust as it should be. It's an older policy. It could probably use, a little updating. It's just general. I think when that policy was created, some of the issues that we're dealing with in society today weren't envisioned. So I think that, a lot of times what we defer back to is standards and best practices of libraries across the country, across the state, and regionally. And that's where we are with displays today. So that's why we go through a process, which is procedural, for when we're selecting displays quarterly and the types of books and materials that go into them. So
okay, so you have an existing procedure, but you think it requires updating for whatever today's are, because it probably was written, 10 years ago?
I believe that nothing is harmed by further clarification of the process. So
Elaine, is that what you were looking for, an update of clarification of what this display should be?
I would like Eric to do a policy that's satisfactory to the public. They've been here representing how they feel, and I think that he should calculate all that into his policy decision that he's going to bring to the commissioners to decide on what they want to do. So he needs to deal with the comments today and calculate that into his policy recommendation to the commissioners.
Okay, so we have an existing policy and procedure. So what you're asking him to do is update it based on what is going on today and not what was going on 10 years ago.
Yes, like maybe make some more clarification. Like obviously we have some hot topics here, like whether it's sexual orientation or whatever. These people have a grievance. We need to bring it to the commissioners and they need to address it. It has to be addressed by them. They need to accept or approve your submission. So please try to keep where they can vote on it so that it's satisfactory to everybody.
So Elaine, are you asking for one issue to be it written about one issue, or are you talking about all displays?
I think all displays should come under the umbrella of, appropriateness. And, we need to calculate what categories, they fall under and where we should put them. Placement is important also.
Okay, so
also, if it's publicly funded, the public is the one deciding. We need to take the majority on that. They need to do a vote on that. And if they're not satisfied with it, I would encourage you to fill out the form to request removal, and we can go ahead and vote on that. Or actually, we can vote to have them vote on it, really.
We
because
can
we're
recommend.
Yes,
Yes,
we're
we could
advising,
recommend. We wouldn't vote on it, but we
Right.
would recommend.
So please make sure you include today's topic in your policy request, because it's obviously the topic of the day.
Well, now let me ask Eric, would you make a single policy, or would it cover all displays?
It would cover all displays.
Okay. And so then,
I would make a recommendation that deals with all of it, just otherwise you would be coming back over and over
Yeah.
again for
Right.
certain issues. So I think that, if you're going to create display policy on how, when, where, what is displayed, as far as books and materials, that we could, and we would certainly reach out to the larger community to see what already exists there. Look for examples where it is balanced, as Ms. Bramlow indicated, because that's what it seems to be seeking is that balance. And then, of course, the ultimate decision would be the board. And just to provide, I would seek clarification on Mr. Labriola's question about which board actually would approve policy. There could be some validity there, so I would seek counsel from the attorney on exactly how we would present any policy recommendations to the board, if that is your ultimate recommendation here.
okay, and you would seek that out with the county attorney?
Correct.
For direction on that?
Mhm.
Okay.
It would be difficult for me to support a motion that gets specific like that, because I think that puts us going down a deep, deep hole, because then I think we're going to be coming back with everything. I think we ought to give Eric the leverage and just say, basically, it needs updating, period. It needs clarification, period, and give it to him without being specific on this, although we understand the significance of this. I think as a board, we don't need to be that specific, because it's really, it's closing it's tying his hands.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yes, and we're opening ourselves for a lot of trouble. I think we can, see what Eric comes up with. If it comes back and we are not happy with what he has presenting, we can address it again. But I think for right now, we ought to say, take it, fix it up, clean it up, spring cleaning, do whatever you need to do it. But we're not going to tell you specifically what you have to address.
Yeah, I would prefer to have a general policy that covered everything like that. I think when we get specific, then somebody's going to want us to remove the Christmas tree, the Hanukkah menorah, or the flag. We're going to go down that rabbit
My
hole.
current understanding is that is the motion on the floor that has been seconded, so that would be my.
Okay, so it would be the general policy then, that we would be recommending that you update.
Correct.
Okay, is that your understanding?
I'm just going to keep my motion. I know that there's people that want me to change it, and I know there's other people that don't want me to change it. I'm going to go with what my motion was, is for him to address the issues today and give a satisfactory policy for the public to present for the commissioners to decide on, because they need to decide on it. We can advise, and regardless of how we feel and what we think about the whole situation, we are advising him to do his part in listening to the public and submitting his policy, change request, and the commissioners to do their job and institute those policies.
Okay.
And you still second that?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. So, then I guess if there's nothing else, we'll take a vote on the motion as it stands on the floor. And that would be Elaine's motion, as she just stated, that there would be a general policy update to what exists, that would be a recommendation from the Library Advisory Board, that Eric would present for the commissioners on displays.
Also, may we have a roll call vote, please?
We will. Yes, we will
But that's
definitely.
not what she's saying. She says specific, that what you just read was not specific, and there needs to be a distinction.
No. Her original motion that she is going with is the one that is not
Okay.
specific.
But
and
that's not what
the
she
one
just
that
said.
I
That's not
seconded.
what she just said.
That's why
You
I wanted
said
to know
that
if
you
you
were
seconded.
going with your original motion that was not specific.
Which was for Eric to address a satisfactory response to the public's grievances today to put before the Board of Commissioners
That's
for them
specific.
to approve or deny.
I still second that.
Thank you, dear.
So you're agreeing it's a specific motion for a specific topic only?
To the top, not only. She didn't say only, she said what was discussed today. And there were, to my opinion, all sides discussed today.
Just for my clarification.
Yeah, let's clear this up. Yeah.
This sounds like a commission meeting.
Yeah.
I'm reading this as provide an updated display policy, which includes all of the responses today, but will also be in general nature to all displays, because if you're going to do one, you need to take a look at the whole picture. But should take into consideration everything that was said today. Is that correct?
Yes, we need to include all of the public's, feedback in our, advice to the Board of Commissioners in your policy to represent what they have stated today.
Are you asking me to write a policy to represent, or to make sure that all of what they have said is considered in the policy?
Satisfactory response. So I want
From
them-
everyone?
Yeah. We have the majority here. We have people that have expressed their, what they want to see. And we need to make sure that we put a policy together that represents them to the commissioners to review and institute if they want to.
The majority or everyone?
Well, today, it's the majority of today, I guess. But you still need to include everybody because it is their right to come.
Right.
So-
Well, there's some confusion versus the, and this is just for my clarification again, a majority of speakers today, or what Edith was referring to, which is ensure that there is a balanced policy
Of all sides.
of all sides.
Well, I really don't, like we said, I don't want to go into like a rabbit hole. Because, do we really need to write a policy saying we can't have gay porn displayed? No, right? That's pretty much, it's called etiquette, right? We need to have an etiquette. We need to have a, like you keep saying, a balance. But, again, it's accessibility to children. They've expressed their concerns about children. So you need to make sure that you are listening to their concerns and address that in your policy making, request to the Board of Commissioners. You're going to have to, be careful with your wording because you don't want to, step on anybody's rights. Everybody has rights. Everybody can express their freedom of speech. And we also have etiquette, which we need to make sure we keep in the libraries. So if people think these are, not, they don't display etiquettely or they're indelicate to the population, if they're sensitive, which they've been expressing, obviously we've had many people coming to these meetings for a long time. So we need to make sure that we are sensitive to what the public is asking and that we institute a policy that they will be satisfied with. So I'm asking you to put together a satisfactory policy for the public that you've had, several months now, I think, to get a feedback and put it together for the commissioners to review and institute.
My only comment to the board is just further clarification. I think the word satisfactory can be taken depending upon which side of an issue that you are on. Typically when I'm making a policy recommendation or even procedurally, what I deal with is what are the best practices, what are the standards, what are the, how does the public library industry in general, and how are they dealing with that issue? And that's typically where I go I do not try to recreate the wheel. I look for good examples where there may be, you know, a lot of community involvement and all of that sort of thing in how those policies are derived. That is my role, and as a library professional, I'm going to look at things from an ethical, professional, and standards and professional standards point of view, and looking at that. I do think that where we have right now is there isn't necessarily a clear policy that talks about displays. And again, I go back to the nature of the changing world. Usually a challenge is about a particular book or about a particular genre of books, and so it's about the materials themselves, not necessarily display. So we would need to include that and then make sure that even our reconsideration policies are updated to include those sorts of things. So that's where I am. It's difficult to say, and that's my interpretation, trying to just get clarification, interpretation of the motion, I think is, and keep in mind, any recommendation that you make, and I come up with a policy recommendation to the board, they can choose to do as they wish. They can modify that policy. They can add to that policy. They're the policy-making entity. So I would just give them my best recommendation from my perspective as a public library director.
And I think that Mr. Head understands the assignment.
So I would think in order to go into what Mr. Head needs, that your motion needs to be changed so that it is a general, all displays, because if you go into what the public wants or what a specific group wants, you would have to get a consensus from the entire population of the county, which would be kind of difficult. So I think amending your motion to what Eric has said would be the proper way to do it, and the way that we can move forward without somebody jumping in every time there's something someone disagrees with, and we have to go through this again.
I think also as a guideline, if you look at the American Library Association, which is an international organization for libraries and librarians, they address this and say they stringently and unequivocally maintain that libraries and librarians have an obligation to resist efforts that systematically exclude materials dealing with any subject matter, including sex, gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation. I mean, to specify that particular problem, okay, is not within the parameters of the American Library Association Bill of Rights.
Yes.
Is the American Library Association a government entity?
No, it's not.
No.
It is a professional organization for libraries
they're
and
not a
librarians.
government entity,
No,
though?
not at all.
Okay. Just wanted clarification.
Okay.
Excuse me. Could I just ask that the motion be read specifically so that we know exactly what it is that's being voted on?
That's exactly where I'm going, because there's been a lot of discussion. So I need to know exactly what the motion says before I would vote on it.
Do you have it?
Are you coming up for comment, ma'am?
Let's stop the comment, please. Let's get on
I'm
to the
sorry,
question.
I am very unclear about the procedure we are following. My name is Rohini again. We seem to be handing a hot potato, which nobody wants to decide on, to poor Mr. Head and say, you decide, and then everyone is going to shoot you down. The reason we are having this meeting is for the public to talk to the board here, and for you to come up with a recommendation, yay or nay. The problem is that it has been politicized and personalized so much that if you say yay on one thing, you feel you're going to be attacked. But the reason everyone is here is one of the basic things that Mr. Head has to take into account is the community standard. It's not some international standard that says something about lesbians and gays. And that is the real problem here. We are, as a community, are talking to you, and we are being dismissed because you have just received an 800-person petition. I have more at home. I wasn't aware we were handing them. I have 200 and something more. Okay? So 1,000 is not enough. You want to put it on some kind of ballot? You can do that, if that's what you want to do. But you cannot dismiss an 800-person petition handed to you and none of you be willing to decide, hey, this is what the community is telling you. Don't just dump it on Mr. Head. It's not fair to him. You have to decide something. This is our recommendation. We want to take into account what people told us, and that is the community. If there was another 800 people who wanted to say something else, they would have told you. Okay, it's the people who are representing people who came here. We are talking to you. You are our representatives. We want you to say, this is the opinion of the people who came. Mr. Head, please take this into account, and you give the opinion, and you give your recommendations to the BOCC. Because otherwise, Mr. Head has to go to the ALA. And that's not what a community standard, as was just demonstrated. It is not even a legal standard. It's a political group, very much infiltrated by LGBT. And that is the problem.
Okay.
So you please represent us, the people who are coming to talk to you. If you think you need more people, you need more petitions, we'll collect them. There's no problem. If you want to put it, send it to the governor, you dismissed even what the governor said.
Thank you, ma'am. So the public portion of this was closed, and we were very nice to let the woman who is has a legal opinion on this weigh in. We are doing that. We're taking into account everyone's position on this. It's an item that has had a lot of discussion. We have to know exactly what we're taking a vote on to advise on. So that's what all this discussion and clarification is. We can't just go by, like, let's say mob rule. Okay, there's a whole lot of us. We're gonna. That's not how it works. We have to know exactly what it is that we're recommending and why we're recommending it. So I would like the motion to be read exactly as we are being asked to vote on it.
The motion was to recommend that the library administration create a policy that is satisfactory to the public's concerns presented today for the board's review, for the BOCC review and consideration.
Read that again.
Into the microphone. We can't hear. Oh,
yeah.
So sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. It was recommended to create a policy that is satisfactory to the public's concerns presented today for the board's POCC review and consideration.
And that's correct, because this is a formal, they filled out formal complaint. They've sent an email regarding the display that they're addressing, so it will be for the topic that was presented today and the complaint set forth.
Okay. It's a request for reconsideration. It's not a complaint. Okay. So that is the motion at hand. And Elaine, is that your motion?
What I put forth, and she backed it up, and it's what was presented today. He's
Okay.
got to update his
Okay.
policy.
Is that your motion as he read it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Elaine, that's your first motion. Edith, are you
Seconded.
seconding that motion? Okay. So now we would like to take a roll call vote. Elaine, yea or nay on the motion as presented?
Yes.
Carol?
Opposed.
Ken?
No.
Opposed?
Opposed. Opposed.
Yay.
Opposed.
Opposed.
So the specific motion as read has been voted nay. And that will not be moved on at this time as a recommendation from the Library Advisory Board. Does anybody else have another motion that they want to put forward?
I would like to put forward the motion that was discussed as far as updating procedures and presenting those as part of the PR report, but not that we as not library professionals decide what those are going to be, just that we be notified of what they are.
You don't need a motion for that.
Yeah,
That's simply procedural, and we
procedural.
can certainly
Okay.
include that,
Okay.
and we
Okay.
agree to absolutely provide you with that information.
Okay, so Eric is agreeing at that as a procedural issue.
Yeah.
That will be included from now on in the messaging and the PR updates that we get from the library system itself, and that we will get more of that information in advance so that we can advise on that.
Madam Chair, I'd also like to encourage in the updating of the policy that it consider time, manner, and place. Those are 3 words that are used in a lot of policies and administration of actually, it's the way to administer a policy. And I think that will help reflect the entire community's issues or concerns around any issue, actually.
Okay.
No problem.
All right, and that still allows the library to display materials at different times, and they will cover that in their updates to us.
Great.
So we will still have displays at our library. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so Eric, you have a director's report for us?
You ready to move forward with business?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Give me just a moment. I'll give a moment for those that don't want the boring information.
Yeah, just the business
I have
stuff.
a couple of financials to share.
Then I'll give them to
I'll give them a moment.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate it.
In your pack. No problem. Thank you, sir. In your packet, you'll see, I just wanted to point out that you got 2 foundation reports. It's been a little while since we had a meeting. You have 2 foundation reports from the U.S. Family Foundation. As you know, you are the advisor to the Library Foundation Fund, which is included in that. And in that foundation fund, you have a September report, but you also have an end-of-year December report. End-of-year December, that foundation has $810,626. So that's a pretty substantial foundation at this time, which in previous discussions included that funding be identified unless changed to be for complementing any renovations done when renovations are put forth for the Lakes Region Library in Inverness and the Coastal Region Library in Crystal River at that time. So,
And do you have anything coming up that you're going to let us know in the future about that?
you mean for the renovations? I think I have been discussing with the county Office of Management and Budget. The trick is finding that additional county funding to, if you're going to renovate, you have to find the funding to do it before you do it. And identifying that funding has been the challenge. And we're still seeking clarification on whether or not impact fees can be used to renovate. That's a very tricky area because impact fees usually indicate expansion of resources, expansion of the building. Which is not our intent. I think our buildings are good for the population size now. They just need, especially these 2 facilities,
Updating.
really need updating inside. But I'm going to have that discussion with some other officials that have more knowledge about how and what the limitations of impact fee funding can be used. Because we do collect library impact fees, and they're for the expansion and support of the library system. So we'll be working on that continually.
Great, thank you.
And there are also concerns right now that even if we had the funding identified, whether or not we would want to move forward at this exact point in time, because the construction costs are so prohibitive right now. We wouldn't get half of what we would get in a normal market. So I think that while no one wants to see a cooling of the economy, so to speak, I think everyone's looking for a leveling of how much it costs just to
I know it would take twice as long.
construct or in housing and everything that impacts libraries.
Right.
So we'll continue to update you guys on that.
Thank you.
And you had already mentioned, I did have it in my notes, that the Friends book sale, the $34,343, I believe, was the exact number. Congratulations to them on their amazing success, their continued success. I mean, it's I just have to express more thanks for all of their hard work and their ongoing efforts each and every year. It's just amazing that they're able to do that. I know that this year, it's especially coming off of the fall into the spring, it was, well, it probably shouldn't be a surprise because they always surprise us. It was pretty amazing. And of course, as it was already mentioned, all of those dollars go back to support the library and a lot of the collection development that we do. And Ken had an appointment he had to make, otherwise he would be reminding us that the Homosexuality Friends sale is next week. I believe that's
March 31st, April 1st, and April 2nd.
March 31st, April 1st, and April 2nd at the and that's at the library. So if you missed the big sale, no fear. We've got you covered for another one, and they always do very well in Homosassa in the southwest part of the county. I'll keep the other updates pretty short. Staffing, I think that, just we are like any other organization or company in the world. Right now, it's hard to find good candidates. We're continuously looking. Especially, professional level candidates. We have an open instruction and research librarian position and an open literacy services librarian position. So if you know anyone that's into those backgrounds and has those qualifications, please encourage them to go to the county website and apply. We also had, since I think the last time we met, our customer service specialist, Shelley in Homosassa, has retired. So I believe that one's open, but we're always in process of doing interviews and finding that next great staff member. So quickly, the project's still active. I won't go into detail on them, but I've mentioned them to you before. Our Makerspace grant, it was about $9,500. That includes image scanners, sewing expansion, a 3D printer. All of that's still in motion. We're still working on those. And I just got get the funding set up for our next generation Wi-Fi, which was the $28,000 grant I mentioned previously, which is going to update the Wi-Fi capabilities inside our buildings at all 5 locations. Our only concern there is supply chain issues for anything electronic right now. Seems to be tough, so we'll be tight trying to get that done by the deadline on September 30th, but I think we'll have some success there. And I think I will leave it at that. I do want to bring Taylor up so she can give us just a quick, short version of the PR update.
Now. Okay, that should work. All right, so as Eric mentioned, we have all the book sales coming up, and those are going to be leading us into National Library Week. National Library Week is happening the first full week of April. All 5 library locations will be celebrating, and we'll have different programs and things available throughout that week to just bring people into our libraries and get them exposed and knowing what we do and the services and resources that we provide for everyone. The next big program we have upcoming is our summer reading program, which is back in full force this year. The theme is Oceans of Possibilities, which our youth librarians are very excited about. Being a coastal community, we have a wide variety of local resources and speakers and interest in general in our oceans and our waterways, and so we are thrilled with that theme, and they have some amazing things planned. They will be doing programming for our students who are ages 6 to 9, and then they will be doing some special specific programs for our students who are aged 10 to 13. Okay, and so all of that information will be out soon. Starting in May, be prepared to be fully bombarded with all things summer programming on our website and social media. Coming very soon, we will be debuting a new calendar and reservation system on our website. The current calendar system we've had for about 7 years now, and in the last year when we were working on rebuilding the website, we were just kind of nosing through other library websites to see what standard practices are across the country, and we came across this new calendar system, and we are very excited that it will be coming. It will allow people to actually register and reserve study rooms and our community rooms online, and so it's hopefully going to make the process of coming into the libraries to host group meetings or different things just a bit easier and more streamlined. So those are coming soon. And then another new piece of technology that will be coming soon is something called the Beanstack app. And so Beanstack is a reading tracking app, and it is something that can be used from 0 to, I believe the highest age they have in their system is 109. So if you know any readers who are 109 and would like to track their reading, let them know that we will have this new app for them. If anyone's over 109, we'll talk to the company and see if we can expand that age range they have.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. And so with that, we are hoping that we will be able to encourage and engage additional reading at not just our school age level, but also getting adults and other groups of people excited again to read. And so there's different libraries that use it for workplace competitions. They have leaderboards. We are all very excited to internally compete with our library staffs to see which branch staff may be reading the most. You know, we're looking forward to those, and so there's just some different competitions and things that are coming, and that will hopefully be launching sometime in May, leading into our summer reading program. And then, that's everything I had. Look at that. Yes, Debbie.
Volunteer appreciation.
Oh, yes, and we will be closing National Library Week with our annual volunteer appreciation and awards event. And so that is where we take the time to honor all of our volunteers and thank them for their service. I believe last year, don't quote me on these numbers, they were just over 12,000 hours of volunteer work, which is still an amazing number considering a lot of our volunteers hadn't come back at that point in 2021. They were slowly trickling back in, but we could not do what we do without our volunteers. They keep the books shelved and stocked, and they do so much more than we even realize sometimes. So they will be honored and appreciated on April the 9th, and they get breakfast, and there's Volunteers of the Year, and there's plaques and presents and goodies, and we just love getting to celebrate them and all of their dedication and hard work to our libraries. Okay, now that's everything.
Okay. I have a question for you. Do you have spelling bee competitions at all?
I do not believe we've ever hosted a spelling
Could you
bee
do that? I think the kids might like it. That's just a request.
That is something we can look at and send to our branches.
Have little prizes for the kids, you know.
We can send that idea out to our branches.
Could even put that in the summer program.
One other thing.
Mhm.
Are you for the Oceans of Fun? What's
Oceans of Possibilities. It is a national theme that is used across the country. Yes, ma'am.
Save Crystal River has got some outstanding speakers, trainers,
They do.
programs.
Mhm.
I love to have the guys at scuba gear come in and tell you about
We
all
do.
this.
Adam is telling me we have something with scuba gear happening this summer.
Maybe, but we are doing some type of program and getting them to speak about that would be good.
Yes, we are definitely utilizing those local groups and resources. Yes,
And
Debbie.
hopefully our grand prize.
We have not determined the grand prize
Hopefully.
yet. It's hopefully we're getting there. We're
Well,
getting
we'll
there.
leave a little bit of surprise, but I do
Right,
know that well, you know, in previous years, our prizes for reading incentives were mostly about things, you know, bikes usually, and I think we've given many kids bikes in the community, but that became very difficult during COVID. It also became difficult with supply chain issues, and of course our sponsor at the time with Walmart and things, and we still work with Walmart, particularly the Walmart Homosexuality, so they're very good, but we're trying to center more on experiences, and especially local experiences. And I know what was good last year and successful was the kayak experience, and we have in Crystal River
Hunter Springs Kayaks
Hunter Springs
donated.
Kayaks that sponsored those, and we'll be seeking that again. And I know that we haven't gotten any confirmations. We have to go out and seek. We're looking for those types of experiences, and I think the fishing guides and other types of things that kids and family type of activities.
Tenth. Reason being that the commissioners are going to actually reappoint or appoint on April 26th. So us having a meeting in the morning before that would really kind of not work. So we pushed it back for 2 weeks, and if we could have a motion to change it to Tuesday, May 10th.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Everybody in favor of moving it?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Board member updates. We'll go around and we'll start at this end. Shivani, you have anything to update?
No updates at this time.
Phyllis?
Yes, Beverly Washnar is back at our branch, and April is doing very well as our new director, supervisor, and we are thrilled.
Very good. Edith?
No updates.
No updates.
I don't know if this is an update or not, but I just want to take this opportunity because, as you said, on April, there is a chance that there's 5 positions on this board that are open for reappointment. So there is a possibility that we're not going to have the same people here at our next meeting. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to say how much I appreciated all of you. I think you're remarkable.
I love
It has
you.
been
You're so sweet.
wonderful working with this group. I think through all of this, and nobody thought we were going to go through what we've been going through, and I think you guys took the high road, and you should be applauded for your integrity through this whole thing. And I think you are role models for public servants, and it has been an honor and a privilege to work with all of you. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, Neil.
And I agree with everything that Neil's saying. I want to thank everybody for making it to the meetings and reading through all the material that they send up. I mean, we are really deluged with material like never before, things that we have to look through and do. Normally, we would have had Love Your Library and things like that we would have been working on. We didn't work on that because of COVID, and then this other issue arose. So the things that you've been asked to address and to do in the past 2 years have been pretty challenging because of everything that's happened in the past couple of years. So I also want to thank everybody, and hopefully I'm hoping that everyone reapplies to the county commissioners for their spot, because it's really been terrific, and everybody has varying points of view, which is I love that. I like all the points of view. I like hearing everybody's points of view. I think it represents the community at large. We're all different, and Citrus County is a great place. And we have 5 libraries in 5 different locations, which are all varying in the community around them. So I think it's really great that we have all the diversity on our board, and I really like that a lot. So thank you all. Carol?
Well, I'm so happy Shavana is sitting over there because we do need a variety of people and backgrounds and ages. And this was her first official meeting, so I hope it is the first of many.
Trial by fire.
Yeah. Wow.
It feels like the first also.
Well, it's first for many, and I hope I get to come back. Sometimes sharing your caring for everybody isn't appreciated, and I think kindness and understanding is so very important. I did write to the county commission about my concerns at their meeting and indicating that majorities are great, but it's about including everyone, and it's not the tyranny of the majority. And sometimes you have to go with the majority, but you don't have to all the time. So it's important to hear from everybody, regardless of if we agree with them or not. But it is important to stick to the facts, and then you can have your opinions about the facts. So I've been doing a lot of research on trying to dig up the facts to be reflective of the needs of our upcoming folks. And I know that we're going to have a lot of new people moving into Citrus County once we have that Suncoast Parkway starts and all the building starts up, and we get a Target, and we get a this, and we get a that. It's going to, hopefully bring in money, not just people that will want to connect at the library. And I got to go to my first storyboard event because I know that Taylor's been talking about it, so I got to see it at the Floral City Strawberry Festival and was so thrilled to finally experience it. So,
Thank you. Elaine?
Thank you. I want to welcome you to the board. I didn't even get to meet you yet, so
Thank you.
God bless you. Welcome to the board. It's a pleasure serving with you all. I hope to continue my term, but we'll see what happens, right? It's been a whirlwind, I'll tell you what.
Really, it has. And I want to invite all the people on the board, too. If you haven't been yet to one of the book sales, or you haven't really been deeply involved in any of the events, or maybe during COVID, I should say, we just didn't get too involved because we were all separated and everything. Now's the time to just jump back into everything. And Homosexuality is going to have their book sale, and Taylor's at every event that goes. And even when the library's having something for the children in the children's area, or the story time or something, just jump in there and take a look. And I think it helps us be better rounded in everything that we're doing. So thank you. Okay. We announced the next meeting because we did our date change. I don't think we have anything else.
I move we adjourn.
I was looking for that.
Meeting B.
The meeting will be Tuesday, May 10th. It will be here, correct?
Correct.
Yes, it will be here again. Same place, same time, different day. Okay, I'm looking for somebody to make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay, second. Everybody's, okay, second, all righty. We're adjourned. Thank you, guys.